Hello lovelies, welcome back again. So today's tutorial is the second part of my previous video, which was the pattern drafting and cutting tutorial for this princess that's bustier dress. And in this video today, I'll just show you how I sewed and attached all the pieces together. So do well to make reference to the other video. I'll link it in the comments if you haven't seen it so that you can catch up from here. Also kindly like this video, share and subscribe to my channel while we get started. So as you can see here, I have all my pieces cut out already. I have my front yoke piece, which I cut out with lace fabric. I cut it out on a fold. I have my top, center front and side front together here. I also have lining pieces cut out for this, my top front pieces here. And the ironed hairstay on the fabric and on the lining as well. So that is it for the top front, all the pieces I cut out. Now for the top back pieces here, I have my yoke, which I cut out with the lace. I have my main back pieces, which is with ankara, and I have lining for them. I also ironed hairstay on the main fabric and on the lining pieces. Now for my skirt pieces, I have my center front and side front. I cut out lining pieces for it as well, and I ironed hairstay only on the ankara fabric and not on the lining. Now for my back pieces, the two separate pieces for the back, I ironed hairstay on the main fabric, not on the lining. I cut out lining pieces for them as well. Now moving on to start sewing, I would start with my top front pieces first. So I'll open it up this way and place it side by side, the center front in the middle and the two side fronts right beside it. So I'm just going to place it this way and I would sew it together. So I'm not going to be padding this dress, so if you want to, you can go ahead and use your wording pieces before you join it together, or you can use your bra cup to just pad the bust area, but I will not be doing that. So I'm going to place the side front on the center front by the side just right there, and I'll pin it together. I'll place this other side as well, pin it just like you're seeing here, and I'll just make a straight stitch from the top all the way down. I'll do the same thing for the lining pieces separately. I'll place the side on the center front and I'll sew it as well. So this is it after I've attached the side pieces of the front to the center front here. So I also went ahead to give it a really good press. I notched the under bust area so that it can sit properly on my body, and so it will be easy for me to also iron. So I ironed it, opening the seams up, and I ironed the front part as well so that my seams can lay flat. And this is the lining piece as well. I did the same thing. I opened the seams up to iron it. Now I'm bringing in the back pieces here. I've also gone ahead to sew the dart on the main fabric and on the lining pieces for the back here. Now I'll go ahead and attach the yoke to the main pieces first. So bringing in the front yoke first to start with that, I'll just open this up here so that we can see what we have. And as you see here, the keyhole design is looking so nice. So I'll go ahead and first of all sew it in with a bias. So I'm going to turn in the neckline with a bias. I'll also turn in the keyhole area with a bias. So I'll place the bias on the right side and then I'll sew it, and I'll turn it over to the wrong side and sew it as well. Now I'll do the same thing for the back yoke also. I'll place the bias on the right side and I'll turn it over to the wrong side. And this is what we have after turning it in with the bias. So I'll place the back yoke aside. Now it's time to attach the front yoke to the main front piece, that's to the ankara piece. So I'll place the front yoke right sides facing with the main ankara top front piece, and then I'm going to pin from one edge. So from the sweetheart neck area, I'll pin from one edge there. I'll pin the middle as well so that it can be aligned, and I'll just pin the rest of the edges together. That's the yoke on the main fabric. So after pinning, I'll take it to my machine and sew from one edge to the V point and then to the other edge. Then after sewing it, I will take the lining piece and place it on the yoke. So I'm placing the lining piece right sides to the wrong side of the yoke, and I'll sew it together. So this is it after attaching it, making sure that the lace is in between the ankara and the lining piece. Now I'll also go ahead and sew the sides because I want this to be fully enclosed. So I'll place that aside for now first, and then I'll bring the back pieces. I'll place the yoke on the back piece, right sides facing also. I'm just going to place it this way, and then I'll place the lining piece on top of it, so making sure that the yoke is in between the lining and the ankara fabric. I'll sew from the top, I'll sew the zipper allowance area, and I'll sew the sides. I'm leaving open the armhole part and the lower part. So this is it after sewing. This is the front piece. See how neat it is looking on the inside. So that is it for the top pieces for now. I'll go ahead to work on the skirt pieces. So placing the lining on the ankara fabric right sides facing, when I cut out the lining, I made sure that I cut out the lining 1 inch shorter than the main ankara fabric. I did this so that I have the lining completely inside, that's fully enclosed by the time I am done sewing. So I'll first of all pin the ends together. So I'll make sure that the ends are aligned, the lining and the main fabric are aligned at the lower part. So I'll make a straight stitch there, and then I'll turn it over to the right side and I'll drag it upwards to meet the waist, so that it's going to align with the waist. So that way it's going to drag it in, it's going to drag a bit of the ankara fabric. So that's why I added about 1.5 inches allowance, so that I have enough allowance at the lower part. So I'll attach the lining to the back skirt pieces, and now these are the front skirt pieces I have here. I have 3 pieces for the front, I have 2 side pieces, and I have 1 center piece. So I'm also going to attach the lining to the main fabric right side facing, just at the lower part for the front. And here at the back pieces, I have attached the lining to the main fabric. I also sewed the side, so the lining is fully enclosed. I went ahead to also sew the dart on the lining and on the main fabric separately. Now it's time to attach the top back to the skirt pieces. So I'll place it right side facing this way, and then I'll make a straight stitch across, and I'll place this aside while we work on the front. So bringing back the front skirt pieces, I'll just place them side by side each other, the center front being in the middle. As you can see, I have gone ahead to turn it in with the lining at the lower part only. And now from the top, I'm going to measure the entire length of this skirt, which is about 28.5 inches. So half inch is to attach it to the top part on the waist area. Now to join the pieces together, I will not sew it all the way to the end, because like I said, there is going to be a slit and there's going to be a flare in between that slit. So I'll open this up. So just take note of the way I'm opening this up. I'm just opening straight. So you know, the only joining I have here is at the lower part where the lining meets the main fabric. So from the top, I'm going to measure all the way to the end, which is about 28 inches. I'll leave the half inch at the top, and now I'm going to go up from my knee line by 3 inches. So my knee is 21 inches, so I'll mark 18 inches, and that is where my slit is going to start from. So placing the side front on the center front, I'm going to measure down to 18 inches, and then I'm just going to mark that 18 inches. So I'm going to mark it on the 2 sides, and the same thing I have done on the ankara part, I'm going to do it on the lining. So I'll place the side front on the center front of the skirt piece, and then I will measure from the top 18 inches downwards, making sure that I leave off the half inch that I'm supposed to use to attach to the top part. So I'm going to mark 18 inches there on one side, and I'll also mark 18 inches on this other side as well. And after doing that, I'll go ahead and sew it from the top straight down. That's from the waist to the 18 inches point I marked. And this is it here. I also went ahead to give it a very good press, and I ironed it inwards so that it will be easy for me to attach the flare when I am doing that. So I'm going to just place the ankara with the lining piece wrong sides together so that we can see and understand what we are doing. So bringing in the lace fabric, this is what I'll be using to cut out the flare also. I'm going to just place the skirt piece aside, and then I'll fold the lace into 2, that's right sides together. I'm just going to make a fold this way, and then I'll further fold it again into 2. So I'm folding it into 4. So I'm cutting out a full flare, which I will later divide. So folding it into 4, I need a length of 12 inches. The length of the slit is actually 10 inches, but I'm cutting this out by 12 inches so that I can just be on a safe side. I don't want to have any form of shortage. So from the top there, I went in by about half an inch from the top. Then from that half an inch, I came down by 12 inches all the way around. I'm just trying to cut out a regular flare, but with 12 inches. So from here, I'm just going to connect the points together, and I'll go ahead and cut it out. Now, after cutting that out, I'll go ahead and divide this flare into 2, because this is a full flare, so I want to use half for one slit and half for the other slit. So this is still on a fold of 4. I'll go ahead and just divide this here into 2, just like this, and then I'll also cut the half inch at the top. So that's sort of like a notch that is going to serve as a guide for me, and it's also going to be easy by the time I am sewing it together. So this half flare is for one side, and this other half is for the other side. So now I'm going to bring back our skirt piece here, the front skirt, and I'll turn it over to the wrong side. Now also, I went ahead to also cut off 1 extra inch from this flare, because I decided that I wasn't going to hem the lower part. So I just decided to cut 1 inch off. So if you're going to hem the lower part, you might need a bit more allowance. Now I'm going to bring one of the flare pieces, and then I'm going to put the entire thing in the center front of the skirt. So you know we have three parts of the skirt. We have two sides and we have one center front. Now after putting the lace fabric inside the center front, I'll bring one edge of the flare. You know this flare has two edges because it is half. So I'll bring out one edge and make sure that I pin it from the notch I have on the flare, the notch I made. I'll pin it. I will just attach that notch to where my slit starts from on the main skirt. So please just watch what I'm doing if you don't understand what I am saying. Now make sure that I have the lace in between the ankara and the lining piece. So I'll put the lace inside this way, and then I will place the ankara on top of it, making sure that the lining piece is underneath it. So the lace is in the middle between two of them. So I'm just going to pin it this way all the way down, and then I'll go ahead and make a straight stitch from where the slit stops all the way to the end. Now this is it after I have sewn it one side. Now to sew the other side, I would open it up this way and take the other edge of the flare. So like I said, this flare has two edges, right? I'll bring the other edge. As you can see, you can still see the notch at the top there. So I'll take this other edge and cross it over, making sure that it is inside between the ankara and the lining of the other side. So now this flare has crossed over to the side front. You know, I first of all put it in the center front, and now after sewing it to the center front, I'm now about to sew it to the side front. So crossing it over this way, I'm going to start pinning from the top there. So from where the slit starts from, I'll take the notched edge of the flare and I'll pin it, making sure that it is in the middle between the ankara fabric and the lining piece. Now after pinning everything, just like I did the other side, I'll go ahead and make a straight stitch all the way to the end. And this is it here after sewing it, making sure that the lace was in between the ankara and the lining. I'll turn it over to the right side so that we can see how it looks. So this is how it's looking on the outside. I got to realize that the slit was actually too short. I would have made it about 13 inches instead of 10 inches. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing on the other slit, and this is it here. We're done with the skirt for the front part. Turning it over to the wrong side, you can see how neat it's looking. So this is what I was aiming at, and I was able to achieve it. And now it is time to attach it to the top part. So bringing in the top piece here, I'm just going to place it right sides facing with the skirt, and I'll make a straight stitch across this way. And this is what I have after making that. Now it's time to attach the front to the back. So I have my back pieces here. I've attached the top to the skirt already, and I'm just going to place the front piece on the back piece this way. So placing it together, I'll take my circumference measurements. So I'll take my bust measurement, my waist measurement, and I'll also take my hip measurement. So divided by 2, I'm just going to take all that. And when I was done taking that, I realized that I have about 1.5 inches to shape up the two sides. So I'll shape up the two sides by 1.5 inches. So this is it here after shaping it up. I also joined the shoulders, that's the yokes, together at the shoulders, and I shaped up the end. So now it's time to attach my zipper. I'm just going to attach the zipper to the back, and I'll go ahead and close the end. So I'm not having any slits behind here because the flare in front is going to give me enough allowance to move around. So this is it here after attaching the zipper. I close the ends like I said, and now it's time to attach the sleeves. Now just putting the dress aside, I'll go ahead and cut out my sleeve. So on a fresh fabric, I'll just place it on a fold, right sides facing, and then from the top I'll just draw out my starting line, maybe by 0.5 inches from the top. And now from the folded edge of this fabric, I'll go in by 5 inches, and from that 5 inches I went in by, I'll come down by 4 inches. So this 4 inches is actually too deep. So if you're doing yours, please do well to come down by about 2.5 inches or 3 inches. That is much better. So 4 inches I came down by was actually too deep for my curve. So from the top there, that's from the folded edge, I'm just going to curve it inwards, just like you're seeing me do. This is just a basic sleeve that I'm trying to draft out first. And now from that curve I have made, I'm going to mark out my armhole measurement. So my round armhole is about 18 inches, and then divided by 2 is 9 inches. So I'm just going to mark 9 inches there, and I added 1.5 inches for allowance. So now I'm going to come down by the length of the sleeve. So I'm using 13 inches and then adding 1 inch for allowance, which is 14 inches. I'm going to go in by my biceps measurement. So my biceps circumference measurement divided by 2 is 6.5 inches. I added 1.5 inches for allowance as well, and I'm just going to connect it like this. So this is a basic sleeve. So now I want this to be a bit puffy because I want to attach elastic to the lower part. So from this end, so where I have marked my biceps measurement with allowance, I went out by 10 inches. So as you can see, I didn't mark it straight. I went a bit slanted upwards. So I'm trying to imitate slash and spread without actually doing slash and spread. So I'm just trying to extend it, and my fabric is not so much, so I'm just extending by about only 10 inches. So I just went out there, and I'm going to connect this to my armhole. So just going down straight this way to my armhole, I'll go ahead and cut this lower part, and this is everything for my sleeve. So I'll just place this on another fabric on a fold also, and cut out the second sleeve. Now that I've cut out the two sleeves, I'll go ahead and just notch the top there so I know the midpoint of the sleeve when I'm attaching it to the midpoint of the shoulders. So I mentioned earlier that I was going to attach elastic to the lower part of the sleeve. So for that, I'm going to fold this in twice, making sure I have enough space for my elastic to pass through, and then I'm going to cut the elastic with my round biceps measurement, and I'll add half an inch for sewing allowance. So this is it after sewing the ends. I'll just go ahead and use my safety pin to pass the elastic through the lower part of the sleeve where I have the space there. After passing this through, what I've done to one sleeve, I'm going to do to the other sleeve. I'll pass the elastic through it, and this is what I have. I'm just going to place it right sides together, and I'll sew from the armhole part down to the end just like this, and I'm going to turn it over to the right side like I am doing, and now it's time to attach it to the dress. So bringing in our dress, I'm going to put the sleeve inside the armhole, and I'll make sure I place it with the dress right sides together. So I'll pin the armhole point there, and I'll also pin the shoulder to the midpoint of the sleeve as well, and I'll go ahead and just sew it all around. I'm also going to attach the other sleeve to the other armhole as well, and this is it after I was done. And we've come to the end of this tutorial, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video up to this point. I am so grateful that you decided to stay to the end of this video. So you can go ahead and pad your own bust area like I said before, so that you can give it some structure, but I didn't do that to mine, and it is still fine. Please do well to give this video a thumbs up, also share and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope to see you in my next one. Bye for now.